Welcome to the Blonde Runner podcast with Coach Laura Erickson, where she shares her healthy living tips as a running and triathlon coach and mother of 4.
Well, hello there. I am back. I just wanted to first say I am sorry. I was MIA in May because May is traditionally a really busy month for me. So I was busy with coaching track, and often lost my voice through the month because even though I use a megaphone a lot because I have kind of a quiet voice, I often get carried away with cheering at races, and so I lost my voice several times, or it was very squeaky. So that was a deterrent for me actually recording any podcasts for you guys. So I did want to apologize for that. But this topic today, I think, is ideal to talk about, especially coming off a month where I didn't give as many podcasts as, of course, I wanted to. So this episode is called The Importance of Saying No. And so for me, that is what I had to do last month since it was a crazy busy month for me. And so I did want to kind of just talk about this concept of saying no and how important it is. And this is something as a people pleaser that I've had to learn over the years. So I am excited to share with you what I've learned and why it is so invaluable. So it's absolutely invaluable to say no and understand when to say no. So I think with this being a healthy living podcast, what we're talking about is balancing our life. And sometimes if you're like me and you're a people pleaser, you often say yes to everything that comes your way because you like to make people happy and you like to be I'm a very busy person and I like to say, yes and be involved, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But as I've gotten older and wiser, I have learned that sometimes you have to say no. There's lots of reasons to say no. There's lots of good reasons to say no. For me, last month, having this being a new podcast, we're just gaining followers. I knew that it was causing me a lot of anxiety, knowing in the back of my head I needed to get this done to do the podcasts. However, I just decided that in order to keep my stress levels down and be able to function well with what I needed to at that time, that this had to be the thing that was on the back shelf. So I have a lot of ideas and I had a lot of things that I could do, and those could wait. One of the things that I did really want to record was something on grief, but it didn't get done. I was coordinating with someone to do an interview, and we didn't get that done in time. And I did also put on a Race for Grief. Every May I put on a Race for Grief. So it's always sort of an emotional month for me anyway. So that's what happened this year. I do intend to have things pre-planned, and, things don't always go our way. I didn't really expect to not have a voice. So I couldn't record as much as I wanted. Excuses aside, we all have them. But either way, the no was the right answer for me in terms of what I had to do last month. So I did want to kind of share some more tips. Like I said before, I'm sort of a people pleaser, but as I was kind of getting prepared for this, I kind of ran across some things that I thought were really interesting that I wanted to share with you. So I've always known it's important to say no to things. And I am really quite good at saying no to things now. And, understanding why I'm able to say no now, I think, has been kind of a journey for me that I wanted to share. First, I wanted to start with this really cool quote that I ran across. Sirens are beautiful creatures. I think that's how you say it. Sirens are beautiful creatures from Greek mythology who lure sailors into their death. The power of their song was so irresistible it would cause captains to steer their boats into the rocks and drown. We are also seduced daily by ideas that sound great at first, but may leave us shipwrecked unless we have the power to say no. Oh, I just love that. I love that visual, because isn't that true? How many times do we, we're not intending to do something with our time, but someone invites us to do something, and that could be good or bad. I think sometimes when we just go off the lure of whatever it is and we head in that direction, we can often find ourselves in a bad situation. So I think it's important to pause. I think that's one of the things that I've learned to do is before I say yes to someone. I still tend to say yes, and then sometimes, you have that regret, like, oh, why did I say yes? I didn't mean to. And I will say, it's not too late to go back and say, listen, I know I said I could, but I can't. And this is, you don't even have to explain why. Maybe say it just doesn't fit right now for me. It's okay to do that. I used to think, no, I said I would. It's my life and my time, and I've learned to respect that about me. And so it is okay to go back and say, never mind, because I am a yes person. So I tend to say that first. So, but if you can, I think a better thing to say, even if you think you would, is to say, let me think about it, or let me get back to you. That allows a little cushion of time to, especially if you're a yes person, if you're a people pleaser, just trust me. Say, I'll let you know, or I'll get back to you. Give yourself a little bit of time so you don't run into that regretful, oh no, I've committed to more than you should do. So there's a tip for you. Another thing I ran across is maybe the reasons why we say yes when we mean no. And for all you people pleasers out there, please listen up, because this is really beneficial. There are 3 common responses to why people say yes to things they don't really want to do. 1, they want to accommodate. They want to say yes because they don't want to disappoint someone. This usually happens when they value the relationship of the person making the request above their importance of their own interests. I can say that happens a lot. That has happened a lot in my life. I've often been like, I'll do whatever you need. I just want to keep you happy. And the problem with that is we are not respecting ourselves. We don't value our own interests enough. And so while it can be very selfless to help others, if you do it in lieu of yourself, you end up resenting them. So it's not always a good thing. Other common responses when people ask us to do things and we really don't want to, sometimes we attack. We say no in a poor way. Maybe they've needed our help for things, or over asked us, I guess, to do things. And then we end up, responding in a fear-based way, or we resent their requests. Or another thing that we could tend to do is avoid. A lot of people that can't say no tend to avoid the situation because they're afraid of offending someone, so they just don't be around them, or they say nothing. The better thing to do, obviously, is to say, let me think about it, or I'll get back to you. Or don't be afraid to say no. You don't have to say, possibly, or it's really up to you. I found it a little easier to just start telling people I'll think about it, because generally that's probably going to be a no, but sometimes it gives me a little cushion to think about how I want to word it, because I am kind of sensitive to, I don't like to hurt people's feelings. I don't like to disappoint people. And so that just gives me a little bit of time. So I highly encourage that. I wanted to give you kind of some more reasons, I guess, why this is so important. And this has been a hard lesson for me over my life, is learning to say no. But I wanted to kind of, there's so many ways we can go with this in terms of, setting boundaries. If you look up this topic, you'll find there's so many different areas. And I do want to talk about setting boundaries and all those things. Probably that's a whole new episode, I would think. But I wanted to say, I ran across another little quote that relates to relationships, because I think that's what we're afraid of, maybe, is when we're people pleasers, we're afraid of losing relationships or damaging relationships. But that's really, maybe we need to take it from a different direction. So we're still valuing ourselves, but we're able to say no when it's okay. I think a lot of that comes from, when we say no and we're not sure about the no, it's a problem. But when we can assuredly state and understand why we're saying no, maybe you don't have to explain it all to them, but you're valuing your own time, your own. And I'm finding as I've gotten older, I just have only so much time. And I'm super protective of my family time anymore. And I've had that misused. And so I think I've started putting a lot of value in certain things that I'm just not willing to bend as much on. And I think as we get older, we realize what things are more valuable. And I think this was kind of a aha quote I ran across. And so maybe in your life, think about this and see if this relates to you. No, test the health and equality of your closest relationships. If you feel you cannot say no, at least to some things, or some of the time, then you're not being loved. You're being controlled. And that just was such a good thing to read for me. I think that's very, very true. If people really truly love and care about you, then they will be able to understand a no. And I love that because it really helps weed out those friends that maybe aren't the relationships you should be putting your energy and effort into. You need to learn to say, hey, no to that. Or I found for me limiting my time or energy on those type of relationships, and then finding those reciprocative relationships are reciprocative at the same level of relationship. So, part of this is really, understanding your own values. And, it's okay to say no if you're too busy. If you are feeling guilty or obligated, trying to understand why. Is it a relationship issue? Is it maybe your relationship with yourself, and knowing where your boundaries need to be? You also need to understand, it's okay to say no, especially, I think it can be hard to say no to someone that overuses your time. But I've known in like my business, I love to help people. Coaching is a very helping business, but on occasion I'll get people that ask a lot of questions, like probably too many questions that we need to set up a session. And I've been really proud of myself for being able to set those boundaries and say, because I know the value of what I do, and I do love to help, and I'm willing, and I offer some classes for free. But some of the classes, they need to be paid for. Some of my time, it definitely needs to be paid for. I've put in the hours and it takes to develop the understanding that I know. And so it's okay to say no and to set those boundaries, and be okay also with understanding that it is something they take or leave. If they don't like your answer, and that sometimes happens, then that's okay, because maybe they're not your tribe. They're not your kind of people. So I think this no allows you to really sift through and understand who really cares and respects you. And I think you need to respect yourself to say no, and that's okay. So, and one thing I've also discovered about myself, and I wondered if you also see this in yourself, is if you tend to say sorry a lot. And I know I started this episode saying sorry. I do think I want to create this consistency with podcasts, and I did want to apologize for that. But at the same time, I'm not sorry that I had to drop that out. I mean, in a sense, because, I have to prioritize my life, and obviously the track kids are really important, and some of the other things that the Race for Grief is very important to put on and put time into. And so things sometimes have to shift like that. And I know you guys are my understanding followers, right? That you're going to be okay with that. So, but if you find yourself excessively saying sorry a lot, then you probably need to look within yourself and see that maybe you're not always, it's not something you have to apologize for saying no sometimes to things. Maybe it takes some bravery. Maybe you have to learn how to honor yourself and be okay with that. But if you really want to thrive in life, you have to say no, because the way I like to look at it is you can't read every book in the library. I mean, in my whole lifetime, if I went down to my local library, I probably could not get through every book in that library. So I have to pick and choose which books I read and which topics I want to explore. And I think that's life. We have choices. We can't explore everything. We have to decide in life what helps us to grow and learn, and what we are truly passionate or want to spend our time doing. And so that no, saying a no, allows you to choose where you put your time and energy. And that goes for things that you do with your time, people you spend your time with, things you spend your time doing. And so I just really wanted to just touch on this topic. And as I kind of mentioned before, we will probably go into like personal boundaries, and I've learned a lot about that, and really being careful about over scheduling yourself. This is when I find this, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just like a mother thing. We tend to say yes to everything, and then we're so scheduled we have like nothing to give. So one of the things I talked to somebody recently about is making sure you take time for yourself. So if you have to say no to something so you can take the time to take care of yourself, and that would be your self-care, then I've often found that I've been so willing to help everybody else that I don't always take the time to take care of me. And that kind of got me in a bind where I was just mentally sapped, allowing others to take all my time and energy and attention, where I didn't give myself that self-care time and attention. And so if you don't take it for yourself, eventually you'll melt down and you'll have to. So I think another reason to say no is you'll eventually have to say no if you get yourself in a position where you're just not taking care of yourself, or your body will tell you tell you. So sometimes it takes some bravery to say no, but as you get better at saying no to people, or even no to things that take your time, may not be other people, it may be yourself, learning what to say no to and what to say yes to, you'll get better and better at it. So just a few things I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to let you know I do have some different interviews that I have lined up, so I'm excited to bring you some really great topics for the next little while. So be sure to tune in. If this is a podcast you want to continue listening to, I encourage you to add it to your favorites. That way it will show up, and of course, if you set it so it can alarm you when a new podcast is up, I would love that. Obviously, liking and following and sharing is very helpful for me and for the podcast to continue. So I wanted to leave you with a quote that I have hanging in my home, that it's never too late, even if you're a people pleaser and you're used to saying yes, it's never too late to learn how to say no. And I wouldn't say no to everything. You definitely have things and opportunities that come your way that you need to say yes to. I'm a big believer in like carpe diem, right? But I do want to make you aware, maybe is this idea, and we'll talk about this in future podcasts, of living purposefully, living intentionally. And a lot of times maybe we can put the blinders on and we're too intentional, and we need to maybe take those opportunities to say yes to things that maybe we're not focusing on. But we want to be careful about, ooh, wow, that pizza sounds really good. I just saw a commercial. I'm going to go eat it. You weren't intending to eat it before, but you did because it smells good, or somebody else has it, or you just saw it on a commercial or whatever. And sometimes that can steer us off onto a different path. And so be really mindful of those things. And while some of those things might be something we do want, maybe that is a good opportunity for us. Don't shut down our opportunities, but be mindful. So I want to leave you this thought. It just encapsulates a lot of the things I'll be going through in the next many episodes, but definitely for just mindset and how we can kind of overcome some of the things that make us not be as good as we can be. So here it goes. Be bold enough to use your voice, brave enough to listen to your heart, and strong enough to live the life you always imagined. It is never too late to become the person you were meant to be. Life is an adventure. Embrace the journey. Anything is possible. Every day has the potential to be the best day of your life. Make it happen. I love it. I always get chills whenever I read it. I read it quite often. It's hanging in my house right by my office. I have it right there on purpose. I love this. It encapsulates so many things that I want to be in my life. And I love the ending. It's about making it happen. So it really is up to you. Healthy living is up to you. What you choose to do with your time, value your own time. And I challenge you, if you're not a person that says no often, I challenge you to find those things that are wasting your time and learn how to say no. And if people ask, learn how to say, I'll think about it, I'll get back to you. Whatever you need to do to protect your time, I encourage it. But thank you for letting me share, and I appreciate you listening in. And until next time, live well. Thank you again for listening in to the podcast. I wanted to encourage you to like and subscribe, and please share this so others are learning about it so we can continue growing it. You can also find me on Instagram at The Blonde Runner, and that's Blonde with an E on there. And you can also find me on Instagram at Coach Laura Erickson, and that's LoraErickson. And thanks again for listening in, and until next time, live well.